It says, me when I realize my life doesn't need to have some grand purpose and I can just hang out and do things I love every day instead. Sounds great. Sounds wonderful. What a vibe. Okay, so let's talk about that. Is it inherently selfish to do what you want every day? Not necessarily. If we think of selfishness as at the expense of others, you don't necessarily have to, at the expense of others, focus on the self. But like we talked about yesterday, individuality versus the collective, village versus villager, we are growing at the same time. While the village is getting better, the villagers are working on themselves. While the village is crashing, the villager is crashing. So today's focus for today's stream is for us to lock in and understand that these things are happening at the same time and is nuanced. And because we are animals on a planet, and there is no objective morality, when we call things evil or bad or wrong, what we're saying is personally, individualistically, and morally, and then ethically, we find it distasteful or incorrect. We're making a statement that is going to make people feel judged, but hopefully this channel and our community, even though there is some sort of judgment attached to our critique, we would hope that it would more or less encourage people to discern for themselves the better action to take moving forward. So what I want to do is I want to share with you, today's stream is themed for things that matter to me personally, because, I try to use myself as the example in a lot of my work, so you have somebody to base the reality off of. I have very specific topics that are very, very, very important to Brittany, very important to me. And I am constantly in a practice of radical acceptance about the fact that I share a planet with 8 billion people, that I didn't choose to be here, that I'm making the best out of this situation, and that I do have hope for the future. I'm very optimistic. And yet I still believe like we are animals on a planet. So I am energy meeting energy. I am force meeting force. I am people meeting people. So when I sit here as a queer person and I tell you like, queer liberation is so deeply important to me that I just want everyone to know, no matter the consequence of the situation, that I am here and I am queer and I am proud. It means that when I see news stories like the one that just came out, an update from a case from a Texas judge that has been in the works for years, falling on the side of her right to not wed gay couples, it's a reminder that I share a planet with people, including those related to me, including those who bore me into existence, who would rather see me lose my right to exist than to engage in any disapproval from a God that they think does exist. So here I am, a tangible person, someone you can touch and feel and hold. And I am less important than an idea of a person who might be in heaven, who might be a God, who might exist, who might be sending you to heaven or hell. I am an individual who lives on a planet in which I have to engage with the fact that we are just animals on a planet, but we have a lot of consequence to existing. There's a lot of unnecessary pain that exists because of us, and I would call that evil. I don't think it's spiritually evil or magically evil. I think it is literally just bad. Too much unnecessary suffering. So we want to learn to suffer wisely. So check out this update on this case, and we'll start here with this discussion about, is there a grand purpose to life? And if you had one, what would it be for you? For me, it's about philosophical joy and giving people tools to live a better life. That's my grand purpose. Pretty basic, but I think it's really important. And it's because of situations like this that makes me want to stand up and remind people every day that you were born free and you deserve to live free.
To offend anybody. I have no desire to offend anybody, but the last person I want to offend is God.
A Texas judge who refused to marry same-sex couples has won a $600,000 lawsuit with the support of the Texas Supreme Court. On the 23rd of June, a Texas county judge ruled that the State Commission on Judicial Conduct could no longer investigate, sanction, or punish McLennan County Justice of the Peace Diane Hensley for refusing to officiate same-sex weddings. The court also ordered the commission to pay Hensley $10,000 in damages, along with more than $630,000 in attorney fees, following years of legal battles. As a justice of the peace, Judge Hensley is allowed but not required by law to officiate weddings. However, in 2016, she began offering wedding services to the public, officiating opposite-sex weddings while declining to marry same-sex couples, instead referring them to other judges. After publicly confirming her policy in a 2017 interview with the Waco Tribune-Herald, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct launched an investigation. 2 years later, the commission issued Hensley with a public warning, arguing that refusing to marry same-sex couples called her judicial impartiality into question. Hensley responded by suing the commission, claiming it had violated the Texas Religious Freedom Act. The lawsuit prompted action from the Texas Supreme Court, which ruled that judges who decline to perform weddings because of religious beliefs do not automatically violate the state's judicial conduct rules.
We want to make sure that all justices of the peace, judges, anybody who is qualified or authorized to officiate weddings, if they have a religious conviction against performing certain weddings, that they be given that accommodation.
But Hensley's challenge to same-sex marriage doesn't stop there. In December, Hensley also asked a federal court to overturn same-sex marriage across the United States, arguing that the decision should have been left to individual states rather than being decided by the Supreme Court. But the ruling could have consequences far beyond her own case, potentially paving the way for more judges to refuse same-sex weddings and strengthening efforts to overturn marriage equality across the U.S.
I have noticed.
So please know that her logic was, first, this is about me, my personal relationship with God. She said it didn't impact my job or my judgment as a judge. And then it was like, oh, but can we also make gay marriage illegal? So again, what is the grand purpose of your life? I do believe it is subjective. And the grand purpose of my life is to curate meaning for myself and those around me, to give people hope, to remind people that you get to live and die how you want, to give people the reminder that we are the cause of all the suffering in the world that is human made. And then on top of that, we have to deal with the earth itself and the destruction that comes from her, like tsunamis and tornadoes and death of animal life and non-human animal life. And we have to contend as the adults in the room that there is so much more we could be doing. If we just did a little bit less bad, it would make a big difference. I think sometimes because the road to hell is paved with good intentions, I think people like her believe she has really good intentions. If I could say anything about my religious parents, is I think they have the best intentions in the whole world. I think they deeply, deeply believe they are saving people and helping people. And I want to relate this today as we go through these stories to the worry about Ariana Grande's health, to why things like fatphobia become rampant, to, this fake and faux concern for Black people in America. I'm going to connect it all today, including Palestine. But the goal today is to remind us that a lot of us have very good intentions, and a lot of our intentions are truly, truly not helping. So the first and most important part to, I think, becoming a more introspective person is to really ask yourself, is the good I want for myself healthy and joyful? And then to extrospect, is the good I want for the world healthy and joyful? And then what does that look like? Because often good intentions look like control. It looks like I want to be able to stop you from harming yourself versus giving you another option. So my belief today that I am using to guide us through today's stream is that I think my responsibility as the adult in the room is not to control you, but to give you an option for a better choice. So I often see adults, especially parents as an example, teachers, people in power, they tend to give kids or people in their care less choices. And to them, that means like they'll have safer options. Like an example could be like Christian parents who say their kids don't need sex education, birth control, or any vaccinations because they're not going to be engaging in sex. Only then to, with their good intentions of keeping their kids away from sex at a young age, ends up creating a circumstance in which those children, either at a young age or even an older age, engage in situations in which all of that knowledge would have been very helpful. So they gave their kids less choices with good intentions, but it ended up giving them less choices to help them in situations that were difficult. With Ariana Grande, we'll go through this later, we see this with this idea of, wanting to help her because you're so afraid she's going to die, but all you're doing is is controlling her, trapping her, caging her. You're not actually giving her a choice. And then on top of this, we forget, because we are animals on a planet, like, you have the right to live and die how you want. And that includes smoking yourself into lung cancer, eating your way into a heart attack. That includes walking or running too much, going to the gym, taking steroids, engaging in promiscuous sex, engaging in like awful behavior with other people who do awful things. Like, you're allowed to live and die how you want. And I think sometimes in order to feel like we have a say in people's lives, we control them. Like a helicopter parent who is so afraid their kid is going to hurt themselves, they just like keep them in the house and don't let them go outside. And I understand that you're having these feelings. I recommend that you sit with them and educate yourself and sort of give them to the universe, because ultimately you wanting to control somebody is never the answer, right? Okay, so, and if you have any comments or questions, you can let me know. I'll give you an example that I think coincides with, if you can't control people, how do you then speak your mind for what you think is wrong? So recently, Conor McGregor found liable for sexual assault, went on the Jimmy Fallon show.
My man, 5 years out of the game, and I'm back. I'm excited to get back.
So in case you missed the story, we covered it when it happened.
To have assault. Former MMA champion Conor McGregor has been found to have assaulted a woman in a civil court case in Dublin. Holding back tears outside court, Nikita Hand, who accused him of rape, said it showed justice will be served no matter who the person is. McGregor has been ordered to pay her the equivalent of £200,000 in compensation. Well, correspondent John Ray is here. And John, this has been a very high-profile case, hasn't it?
It has. It is a case that has gripped Ireland and beyond. And late this afternoon, Conor McGregor, who was once reckoned to be the best paid athlete in the world, he left the Dublin court to a media scrum after being judged by a jury to have viciously assaulted a young woman in a hotel room at a Christmas party almost 6 years ago. Now, McGregor, who is a huge star in the world of mixed martial arts, he insists that the sex that night was consensual, but his victim, Nikita Hand, she described in court a brutal attack, that he'd choked her, that he'd raped her, that she thought that she was going to die. And after her victory, she dedicated it to her daughter, Freya. This is what she said.
I want to show Freya and every other girl and boy that you can stand up for yourself if something happens to you, no matter who the person is, and justice will be served. To all the victims of sexual assault, I hope my story is a reminder that no matter how afraid you might be, speak up, you have a voice, and keep on fighting for justice.
Now, worth noting, this was a civil case with a lower standard of proof, and that's because Ireland's Director of Public Prosecutions decided not to bring any criminal case in this instance, and that will resonate, of course, here in the UK, where the vast majority of rape complaints don't get anywhere near a court.
I want you to just understand that she was on her period and was wearing a tampon, and he raped her so viciously that the tampon was so lodged inside of her, she had to get surgery to remove it. That's the consensual sex he says happened. Jimmy Fallon, who I've never liked, okay? And this one's Jimmy Fallon, because some people...
Now it's your big return
This one's Jimmy Fallon.
to the UFC. Conor, what's happening?
A lot of people confuse him for the other Jimmy. But this is Jimmy Fallon. I've never liked Jimmy Fallon. And again, this is the really disgusting group of men who, again, turn a blind eye to when they have a rapist right in front of them. And this is why I say this is very important to me. My life's purpose, my grand purpose is this. Yes, my grand purpose is also having fun and relaxing at home and loving my loved ones. And it is also fighting for injustices in the world, because I think this is my greatest calling. I mean, my greatest calling is being the best person I can be, of course. But a big part of my calling is also standing up against the injustices in the world that I feel like as I get older and older become clearer and clearer to me. I think when we're younger, it's not always so clear what the injustice of the world is. I think as we age and hopefully seek out wisdom, we really start to understand, like, oh, the world is really a specific kind of place. Over on my commentary channel, or no, maybe it was one of you, somewhere on my, I have two channels, but somewhere on one of my channels, somebody said like, maybe it was my commentary channel, said like, it feels like nobody's ever going to be perfect. And then it also said like, not everything's as problematic as we think. It was two different comments. And here's the thing. Lots of people are good people and can be great leaders, but many people are flawed. And depending on where you are in your journey, you might not be the best person for this position. And I think we forget sometimes that it's not about realizing everything is problematic. It's about accepting that we're so deeply flawed as a species that we really need to contend with that as the adults in the room. Again, young people, you know, I'm hoping that the adults in the room, we do something to pave a path for you. I'm not expecting 15-year-olds and 19-year-olds and 21-year-olds to figure it out. I don't expect you guys to do anything but figure yourselves out right now. But eventually, and I think this is the part, as we get older, we also have to show up as the adults in the room. So this was also going viral. Again, I do not like Jubilee and I do not like Dean Withers. I'm showing you this clip to show you the women in the group and the way that all of us, regardless of gender, background, color, creed, we can end up uplifting systems of oppression and being very unethical. So yes, there is no grand purpose to life objectively outside of our human perception. There is no God or anything like that, but we create meaning. And you have so much power in that. You have so much power in the meaning you create. So here's Dean Withers debating MAGA women, and just listen to this question here.
All right, listen, put your hand up if you would have sex with Donald Trump.
If you would have sex with Donald Trump. Found liable of sexual assault, Donald Trump.
Oh,
if I was married to Donald Trump, yes. And I'd love to be.
All right, listen, put your hand up if you...
He was literally found liable of sexual assault. Donald Trump was. This is very important to me. Me personally. It doesn't have to be important to you, but it's very important to me. Okay? This is why I wake up every day and I think about ethics and I think about morals, because to me, this is bigger than politics. I think ethics brings you to politics. I think your ethics are a reflection of why you choose your politics. I don't think politics informs your ethics. So for me, I think, okay, what's your ethics? What's your morals that you would have sex with a man found liable for sexual assault, or that you would find him attractive, or that you would want those things? Like, what is that? And there's a lot here. It's layered. And people aren't just evil creatures that Satan, tempts into evil. They're animals on a planet. They're products of their environment. They're, there's so many things to it that I think is important. This also relates to, and let me know if you guys have any questions, of course, but I don't see anyone asking me a question directly. So let me know if you have a question. But this leads me into the Ariana Grande of it all, right? This video came out in 2023, and this is the discourse around her body has been so prevalent and honestly offensive at this point. But I want to talk about it just a little bit more because I recently, I'll tell you in a second. Here, watch this video from 2023.
Address your concerns about my body and talk a little bit about what it means to be a person with a body and to be seen and to be paid such close attention to. I think we should be gentler and less comfortable commenting on people's bodies, no matter what. If you think you're saying something good or well-intentioned, whatever it is, healthy, unhealthy, big, small, this, that, sexy, not sexy, we just shouldn't. There are ways to compliment someone or to ignore something that you see that you don't like, that I think we should help each other work towards. But I just also wanted to say, one, there are many different kinds of beautiful. There are many different ways to look healthy and beautiful. I know personally for me, the body that you've been comparing my current body to was the unhealthiest version of my body. I was on a lot of antidepressants and drinking on them and eating poorly and at the lowest points of my life when I looked the way you consider my healthy, but that in fact wasn't my healthy. I know I shouldn't have explained that, but I do feel like maybe having an openness and some sort of vulnerability here will be something good might come from it. I don't know. That's the first thing. Healthy can look different. The second thing is you never know what someone is going through. So even if you are coming from a loving place and a caring place, that person probably is working on it or has a support system that they are working on it with. And the third one's unrelated. I guess I just wanted to extend some love your way and tell you that you're beautiful no matter what phase you're in. Have a very beautiful day. And I'm sending you a lot of love.
I think I agree with that message. I understand that some people want to say, but generally I agree with that message. But stay with me here. Let's go to Crutches and Spice, who also has great opinions about disability, is a disability activist, and wants to talk about Ariana Grande. This is recent, though.
I want to talk about Ariana Grande consumption and disability, particularly the public's consumption of disability when it's visible and what they allow versus what they don't allow. If you don't know me, like about 5 years ago, I made a video talking about toddler teas, saying that this exact moment was going to happen with the rise in EDs and hyperthinness, because it also coincides with the rise in fascism. Like, many people made this prediction, I'm not the only one, but my video was one of the more popular ones on this app. Not to mention tying it in with the pandemic, which eugenic sentiment seems to rise after mass death events in which disabled people are left to die. Part of the reason why Ariana Grande is never going to come to the internet and listen to anybody talking about her body is that there's always conflict between the consumption of a public persona and the care of that actual person. And many people are arguing opposite sides of the exact same coin. EDs, eating disorders, are a disability. They are classified as a disability. And there's a certain level of tolerance that the public will allow in terms of consuming visibility from a disabled person. That includes positive sentiment, working to overcome your disability, and self-employment, and general cuteness of the disability. And, of course, talent. Outside of that, there's very little tolerance from the public to consume stories, personas with disabilities. And in particular, once a disabled person's disability becomes overwhelming above all of those things, they will cease to tolerate consumption of that person, as is the case with a lot of these hyper thin celebrities. And part of the reason why a lot of these stars, a lot of these people never listen to the public when they hear talks about eating disorders and what they want health to look like, per se, is that the public lets that person know that their need to consume that person outweighs the actual health and care of that person. Because in general, the public tries to separate out their consumption of a person from the care from for that person. But in reality, from the other side of that, it likely feels like the exact same thing. And it doesn't just apply to somebody like Ariana Grande. When anybody has the propensity to be famous, that barrier will always be there. Eugenia Cooney's another example of this. Because discourse is one thing, having people that genuinely care about that person is another. And they will never feel like you care at the same time you have this relationship to them, which is your own consumption.
I think there's so much here that's so important. And I think we see it on display later in Ariana's life when in 2024, she did this interview also about her body during the Wicked tour. And I just want to say, again, this is so important to me because I'm newly disabled. I'm a few years into my disability journey, and we can all end up disabled one day. You just never know when you'll be disabled. Most of us grow old and become disabled. I became disabled a few years ago. And it changed my life. It changed everything I was able to do. It changed my ability to go outside and be able to do anything that used to be normal to me. Everything. I mean, I'm in some ways so grateful that I did so much in my earlier years. So now being disabled, in some ways, I'm privileged enough to say that I don't really feel like I'm missing out too much. But I think nothing shocks me more than realizing I'm disabled than when people question how much I go outside, or if I've taken time to go do something, or, oh, do you spend all your time inside? It's like, you don't understand that, like, I was debating if I should take off work because I needed to go to the post office to mail postcards. And I was like, can I go to the post office and go to work? Like, that is new to me. I used to be able to wake up in the morning, go get my hair done, go to the post office, run an errand at Walmart, come home and stream, later on party with my friends. Like, I used to be able to do like 72 things in a day. And now I have to pick and choose, like, and then it's like, oh, well, why don't you go outside more? It's like, okay, well, fine, I won't go outside. And then I'll have my partner go do it so I don't have to do it. But then I never leave the house. Like, and then all of a sudden I'm cooped up all the time. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much here that I think is important. You know what I mean? Just as if you're autistic, you've been disabled your whole life. Yes, I understand that. That's a little hurtful to bring up right now, given that I think that's a little hurtful. I find that to be hurtful. Because I didn't know I was disabled. Like, I think it's different when you realize it. Your whole shift of your perception of self changes. So I hear you, but it sounds a little hurtful if you're talking about me. I don't know if you are. I am like diagnosed autistic, and I see how my life, I've been disabled my whole life, but I never really made me realize I was disabled chronically until a few years ago. That's what I mean. My fibromyalgia is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about my autism. The disability I feel from being physically disabled because of fibromyalgia is the most impactful form of disability that I suffer from. And it does force a lot of people to judge, like, oh, you don't, like, there's a lot of judgment around never leaving the house that I think a lot of us experience, even if you're autistic or neurodivergent or something else. But just to be clear, that really distracted me. I know you didn't mean it in an offensive way. It just sounded dismissive, so it kind of distracted my brain. But you just don't know what people are going through. You don't know how their perception of their self is. So when Ariana says, I'm the healthiest I've ever been a few years ago, I believe her. Just like I think my relationship with disability in a big way, for me, the one that I struggle with the most started a few years ago when I got fibro. Even if I was disabled my whole life from autism, like, it's a different relationship. So I believe Ariana when she says, I'm the healthiest I've ever been now, and I'm the sickest I've ever been. Like, to be clear, I am literally the healthiest version of Brittany that I have ever been, and I have more diagnoses than I've ever had. You know what I mean? So I think I can understand that perspective. With that said, let's watch this video.
I've been kind of doing this in front of the public and kind of been, you know, a specimen in a petri dish really since I was 16 or 17, you know, so I have heard it all. I've heard every version of it, of what's wrong with me. And I think in today's society, there's a comfortability that we shouldn't have at all. Commenting on others' looks, appearance, what they think is going on behind the scenes, or health, or how they present themselves, you know, from what you're wearing to your body, to your face, to your everything. There's a comfortability that people have commenting on that I think is really dangerous. I'm really lucky to have the support system that I have, and to just know and trust that I'm beautiful, you know, thank you, and so are you, and so are you. But I do know what the pressure of that noise feels like. It's been a resident in my life since I was 17, and I just don't invite it in anymore. It's not welcome. I have work to do. I have a life to live. I have friends to love on. I have so much love, and it's not invited, so I don't leave space for it anymore.
Okay, so that's recent Ariana. Now, yesterday I was catching up. So this is Medusan, Jasmine. And Medusan, you probably know her because she makes like really good video, I think essays or commentary videos on her other channel. But then I just found out she has a stream channel. And on her stream channel, let me bring it up, she talks about Ariana. This is one of 2 videos she makes about Ariana. So she might have something to add separate from this in a future video. I also hope we can collab in the future because I'd love to talk to her about things because she's a leftisty girly and she talks about misogyny a lot, and I think that's cool. This part of her video, though, I wanted to use as an example of why I take issue with the I'm afraid Ariana's going to die narrative. Again, I really value choice. I understand we need to be introspective about our choices. I agree we should tackle choice feminism. I agree, like, when we have conversations about is it a good choice or a bad choice, I think it's just so personal, and I'm sick of people acting like they know what's going on in people's lives. And I understand that it comes from a real place. But let's just use her video, this section of it, just a section, to kind of have the conversation.
But the current version of her, and I'm not being dramatic in saying this, I mean, I've thought about it and I'm like, am I being dramatic about this? And I really don't think I am. The current version of her looks like she's about to die. And I don't like the way that she put this video out there because her fans continuously use it as a way to be like, stop talking about her body. She said that she's healthier than she was before, so just take what she says and go. And like, I can't at a certain point because she fucking looks like she's about to die.
2 things. The video that I think they're using to have this conversation is the one that I showed you from 3 years ago. So I think we should think about the timeline. She might feel differently now. The other video I showed you that was more recent from 2024, she also said like she's not listening anymore because I do think Ariana shouldn't. I don't think Ariana Grande should consider what anyone on the internet thinks about her because she's too famous. and these people are not her friends. What Jasmine is saying in this video is that she wants to just talk about it with her community, not specifically for Ariana, so that's valid, but how we talk about it matters. I would be mortified if people were making these videos about me. Just point blank. Absolutely fucking mortified. Like, be empathetic for just a second and put yourself in Ariana's shoes. Would you like it if somebody made a ton of fucking videos saying, I am terrified for you, that you're gonna die? Like, would this help you? That's what I want to know, because it would not help me. I'm telling you right now, this would be my nightmare. Please mind your business. I've already had people on the internet, make videos about me that I felt like were so inappropriate. And at the same time, like, I just know that they're not serious, so I don't take them seriously. But imagine if you were getting thousands of videos, seeing your body edited on thumbnails all the time, seeing your body put on display. Like, okay, just think about that. Would that help you?
The other thing people will keep bringing up.
And by the way, if you think it would help you, that's okay. I want to relate this to fatphobia as well, because a lot of fat people will say, oh, it really helped me when people bullied me about being fat. I really liked it when people told me I was ugly because I was fat. It really helped me get skinny again. So be careful about this idea of like, I think it would help me.
Up is Chadwick Boseman and how people made fun of Chadwick Boseman for being so thin, and then he died right afterward. And didn't we all feel so bad for that? When Chadwick Boseman revealed he has cancer, he opened up about how the media made fun of him day and night about being skinny with vile comments. The girl could be severely sick but trying her best. Stop assuming shit when you don't know these people behind your screen. And like, okay, yeah, people shouldn't be making fun of her. People shouldn't be making like really tasteless jokes about the way that she currently looks. But if you're comparing her to Chadwick Boseman, you are making the argument that she is currently dying. And at that point, I don't know how we just ignore that, especially.
It's none of your business if people live or die. It's only your business if they're asking you for help. It's actually none of your business. And if you actually cared about people dying, you would be caring about all the unhoused people, all the people suffering in Palestine, all the people suffering around the world. But the truth is that we care more about singular Ariana Grande than we would about the unhoused population in the United States that is starving. The actress who just passed away, who played the voice of Lilo and Stitch and Chihiro from Spirited Away, she was unhoused and dying and had sepsis, and she was literally skin and bones when she died. I didn't even know this until she died. She had millions of dollars allegedly in residual checks she couldn't actually get access to because she didn't have a place of home, so she couldn't have them sent anywhere and didn't have the strength to go pick them up. So she died unhoused and skin and bones, and nobody was able to help her. So that is why I say, where is your community? Where is your group of people? Where is everyone to help you? And I say, Ariana already said, she already told us she has a community. She has people in her life. I have to trust her, right? I have to trust her. So again, when we have these conversations and we're talking about concern, like Ariana might die, this also feels a little bit like when we have conversations about an unassisted unaliving or assisted unaliving. Like, people have the right to die how they want. Do you go to every person smoking a cigarette and take it out of their mouth and stop it on the ground? I think people have the right to smoke and get lung cancer. I think people have the right to get lung cancer by breathing in the toxic air. People get lung cancer more when people who've never smoked a cigarette in their life will get lung cancer from just breathing the air. You know what I'm saying? Like, you act like we're not already dying. The question is, are we allowed to die quicker than planned? Or are we even making that choice in the first place? There's a lot of nuance here that I think is important. This is why I've been talking about assisted unaliving for my whole life. This is why I'm a big fan of it, because I think we have the right to live and die how we want. But just a reminder, guys, that we're all dying. Always. It's just a matter of when. So if you're deeply concerned with Ariana dying, I'm pretty sure her family is too. And the question is, are you really sending out the message you want to send out by giving this sort of like concern? You know what I mean? Like, are you doing that? I don't know. I don't really think so, but I think it's okay to say, I emotionally feel this way. Like, I feel very strongly about Britney Spears. I feel very strongly about Britney Spears. I also see in many ways that the Britney I knew is gone. We saw it. The cognizance in her eyes, the Britney that I knew in interviews before that Britney is gone. That doesn't mean that the Britney she is today isn't just as entitled to a good life as the Britney who was before. And I want the Britney that is alive today, Britney Spears, I want her to have a good life. I do think it was wrong that she was kept in a cage by her parents. I do think they took advantage of her. I do think this industry destroys people. And my only hope for Ariana and every person in this bubble is that they somehow survive past it and find their joy. I also want to believe that Ariana, like Brittany, like so many people, their genuine joy is in performance. That I don't think they could have done it unless it was. Beyonce and Taylor Swift and all these people, like Beyonce said about Britney Spears in an interview a very long time ago, they said, what do you think about Britney Spears? You know, she had really been going through it. And Beyonce said, I just think it's like really important who you have around you. I think it's just really important that you have a good team around you. Because I think Beyonce knew, you know, and not that Beyonce's team around her is always perfect, but it's really hard in this industry. It's a vicious industry. But I kind of want to believe that these individuals truly love the artistry in which they engage in. And so to take that away from Ariana is very frustrating to me, because that's basically what people are saying, is they want to deplatform her, not allow her to sing until she's healthy enough to sing. But again, that goes into ableism, because like, what if she's never healthy enough? And what if her one existence, what if the one thing keeping her alive is performing? You don't know. So here you are taking it away from her for what? And even if, God forbid, Ariana dies in front of us, it is the same rhetoric people see or say about like obese people or fat people. I don't even know if we want to use the word obese, but we'll say it about fat people. Like, oh my God, they're going to die in front of us. They're going to get a heart attack. Their heart can't sustain this. They're not going to make it. And it's like, is this really the message we want to send? Like, I don't think so. I don't think this is the message we want to send, you know, right? Jezet, are we, especially women, supposed to die in silence? Can you expand on that? Like, what do you mean by that? Do you have I'm not sure I understand the question. I could take that either way, right? Let's keep watching and then I'll show you some TikToks.
Especially when she's on tour. That's the thing for me that's like, that separates it from a lot of other situations where it's like, okay, if this was just something that she was dealing with privately, that she was just at home with an eating disorder, wasting away, it's like, well, what the fuck? What are we supposed to do?
Hold on. Chad says, as a former anorexic myself, I do think convos about bodies should be allowed. If I had never learned to think about bodies healthily, I'd be dead. Convos should happen, just respectfully. Again, and yes, I agree. We're not talking about not having the conversation. We're talking about this full concern of like, Ariana's gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. This is a philosophy channel. You're already dead. You're all going to die. So the way you have this conversation matters. I'm not saying you can't have the conversation, but how you have it matters. It matters in everything we do always. When we're talking about racism or money or travel or food, any conversation you have has to be had in a certain way. It has to.
What are we supposed to say? But it's like when she's on tour and she's out in front of people, number one, it becomes a point where to ignore it in conversation with one another, not necessarily even trying to bring it to her attention, but just when we're talking about her, to ignore it at some point becomes normalization. It becomes a thing of like, let's pretend we don't know. Let's pretend we have no idea that something is going on with her when it's just so blatantly evident. It adds to this narrative that she possibly could be healthy while looking the way that she does, and she just couldn't. Where I really don't get it, especially with her being on tour, it's gonna get worse. This is night 1 of a 41-night show. I am worried at this point that she's not going to make it to the end of the tour. And I don't just mean that the tour is going to get canceled. I mean she is not going to make it. Karen Carpenter died when she was 32. Ariana Grande is 32. And that doesn't mean that she's going to die at the exact same age as Karen Carpenter. But like, I think we have this idea that she's so young and she has so much ahead of her. I
really think like the best, what I would do is if I was this passionate about eating disorders, is I would specifically work with eating disorder patients, or I would go into a medical field, or I would do a nonprofit, or I would volunteer. But I just don't think making videos in this way is helpful. And I say that respectfully because I do like a lot of Jasmine's work, but I just think that, you know, how passionate can you really be? I am not passionate about eating disorders. I am passionate about choice and healthy choices. And I don't know Ariana Grande enough to know if it's healthy. Obviously, she's going through it. I hope she finds whatever she needs. Maybe this is the healthiest she can be. We don't know. We don't know. But I would say philosophically, obviously, we're out of sync with our joy for a lot of other reasons, though. I mean, the girl has been cosplaying different races for the last 10 years. You know what I mean? She doesn't know who she is. But that's, you know, that's a part of we don't know why she's thin. We just know it's a symptom of something, right? I'm saying when we say it's none of our business, I mean to say it's not my place to judge her personally because it's not that kind of action. She's sick. It is my job to say, okay, what can we learn from this? And how can I help others in the meantime? And I think I'm helping you. I think I'm reminding you to stay fucking humble when you don't know what the fuck is going on about people's decisions and lives. Because otherwise you sound like a fucking conservative who's always in people's fucking business. That's what conservatives do. I just really care about these gay people. Don't you know gay people are dying of AIDS? Don't you know anal sex leads to HIV? Don't you care about gay people? If you really cared about gay people, you would not support gay marriage because gay marriage leads to AIDS. That's what you sound like to me because that's what I heard my whole life from conservatives. Don't you care about gay people, Brittany? If you really cared about your brother, you wouldn't allow him. You wouldn't support him in dating a man because he could get AIDS, as if AIDS isn't something straight people get all the time. As if AIDS, you know what I'm saying? So like you have this, it's like this faux concern. It's like this weird controlling concern. If you really cared about women, I heard this my whole life too. If you really cared about women, Brittany, if you really cared about black people, Brittany, you wouldn't be pro-choice. You wouldn't be pro-choice. Abortion kills black babies. Abortion ruins women's bodies. That's what you sound like to me. And I'm saying, okay, relax. Thank you. Relax.
She has the Fokker-in-Law movie coming out. She has some other movies in line. She has a new album coming out. She has this tour. We kind of think that like Ariana Grande couldn't die right now. That's not a thing that could happen. She's too young to die. But Karen Carpenter was not too young. This is the exact age that Karen Carpenter died. And I don't know what is to be done about that because I don't think it's like fans can't like stop the tour themselves. I mean, I would feel weird at this point if I had tickets to go see her because it would just feel like I'm funding her death. I don't know. It's like, what are you supposed to?
So this is like the Chelsea Fagan argument. Like, I would feel weird funding her because I'm funding her death versus, again, I think this ties into ableism for me because a lot of people feel that way about obesity. They feel that way about fat people. They say, how can you support a fat person being fat? You're contributing to their death. That is literally such a common narrative. That's what I'm saying. Don't you see the correlation? You are making the decision that you can't fund or support her because she's killing herself slowly. That is every fatphobic talking point I've ever heard.
My head is like, why do you care so much about someone else's body in order to like try and argue against body positivity? Like say someone's like fat, obese, whatever, walking on the street, that doesn't actually affect you as a person.
Totally right.
So I don't understand why you would feel the need to fight for people that are arguing for that person to feel validated as a person.
Oh, wait, pause. Exactly. Chat says, isn't this the same reason people don't give money to unhoused people? They're just going to use it for drugs? Absolutely. Oh, I don't want to give money to unhoused people. They're just going to use it for drugs. And it's like, that's none of my business. If they use it for drugs, it's none of my business. Here's $20, bro. Good luck. I hope you use it for food and shit. But like, you know what I mean? Like you won't give to homeless people because they might use it for drugs? Like what?
I'm not arguing for the person I don't know. However, there are people that do want help. And I think that this can leave them feeling exceptionally confused.
Why do you even care? It doesn't affect you.
The volume is really, really low here. So I'm just going to turn it up on my end, but you might have to turn it up on yours.
The thing, I spent 33 years of my life being failed by people who felt exactly that way. Doctors who didn't push, people who watched me struggling and said absolutely nothing. Coaches who handed me the same generic plan they handed everybody else and called it some sort of like personalization. And I was sick, only getting sicker. And nobody said a word because saying a word felt uncomfortable. I lost 100 pounds. I've helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women do the exact same thing. You know what every single one of them has in common? Someone in their life decided at some point that conversation was too uncomfortable to have, and they paid for that silence with years of their life. So when someone asks me, why do I care? I generally don't know how to answer that without asking what is wrong with you that you don't.
She's talking about fat people. It's the same exact sentence structure people are using for Ariana, except this woman is talking about fat people. She's saying, how do you not care about fat people because you're so uncomfortable having the conversation when they're taking years off their life? And I'm saying it's none of your business unless you are close to these people, unless you are friends with these people. Listen, I have rules in my relationship. I have rules in my marriage that if my body shifts, if my partner's body shifts in drastic ways, we are obviously allowed to bring it to each other and say, I love you and I care for you. And we need to check in about our bodies because It's not just about our bodies. It's about any change in it, any radical change in it, any fluctuation. And we're allowed to have those conversations because we love each other. We're also allowed to have the conversation that says, if I turn around tomorrow and I think I'm a Catholic, they're allowed to take me to the hospital to see that I haven't hit my head. Okay? So yes, we live in a world where none of you have healthy relationships with anybody in your life. So the only communication you have between each other comes from a place of judgment versus a place of real concern. So you don't know how to actually give people, like, I don't judge Ariana for having an eating disorder. I'm not judging her. She's not a bad person. You are judging her. You're saying she's a bad person, but you don't know you're saying she's a bad person because you haven't deconstructed ableism. You haven't deconstructed fatphobia. You don't even know yet. You don't even know that that's what you're saying to her. That's what she's hearing, because that's what I'm hearing. And I know she's hearing it because she told us in that interview earlier she's not going to listen to you anymore because she thinks it's not good concern. You are judging her. And I'm saying, I don't want to judge you. You're sick. The same way I don't judge drug addicts. I don't judge, I'm not judging anybody. To be honest with you, maybe this is my philosophical journey and this is just where I'm at. I'm not judging any of you, literally. I am using discernment to judge how to deal with you or to be safe around you. But I think you're an animal on a planet, and I think everyone's going through it. And I think we would do better as a world if we could see the struggle people are facing, all of them, every single one of us. Here's another example. It says step-by-step smashing fatphobia.
There's a thin person in you. Who says that? Yeah, because I ate them. The sad part is that a lot of these people actually do find this empowering. I think this is some kind of you. Look how rebellious I am. You are slowly killing yourself. This is not something to be proud of. I like this comment, okay? This is like an alcoholic flexing about how much they drink. Honestly, so concerning and sad. We're watching these people celebrate the very thing that is harming them. And they expect the audience to applaud. But like this person said, you wouldn't applaud an alcoholic if they were obviously unwell and drinking on camera. And this shouldn't be applauded either.
Well, I think the dilemma here is that it's much more nuanced than we wouldn't applaud an alcoholic. I think, first of all, we do celebrate drinking, over drinking, puking, binge drinking, going on benders, partying every weekend, going to the club. Alcohol is declining currently, but it's a very big part of our culture. But I would also say that more or less, we don't know what an alcoholic is, that you don't know what that is, that we don't even have conversations about alcoholism because we don't really know what's going on. We're not educated. But I would just say, I'm not going to judge an alcoholic. I will do my best to mitigate harm because alcoholism can be very harmful to the person and the people around them. But how sad. How sad to struggle in such a way, to be drowning in such a way. And it's not to say that you can't be frustrated. It's not to say that it isn't hard. It's not to say it isn't. I've heard horror stories from children whose adult parents are drowning in addiction, that they come home to their father naked on the grass and they have to drag him inside and there's puke all over the house because their father, I get it. That sounds horrible. That is devastating. I don't think we need to judge the parents, but I think we have every right to feel very upset and angry as children brought into this world by people who don't care and who neglect us. I also think we should turn that anger and make sure we're angry for the world and not at the world. Because when we're angry at the world, we make content that I think sounds like these people don't deserve anything good. Because then what people hear, especially conservatives, is they hear punishment. So they hear, oh, because you're suffering from addiction, you deserve to be locked away, never seen again. That's why we have criminals. We have people dubbed criminals for having addictions and doing drugs, and we have them put away for 20 years. How is that helping anybody? How is it helping us to put our family members away behind bars all these years? What good is that? Okay, one more fatphobic TikTok and then back to the Ariana combo.
Though, right?
No, I wouldn't consider it.
You know you're fat though, right?
No, I wouldn't consider you fat either.
Girl, I'm obese. I need to be very clear. It's not joking roasting anymore. We cannot do fat acceptance. That is not healthy. We are not going to live long lives. My energy levels are not as good as other people. My resting heart rate is not as good as everyone else. I am more susceptible to high blood pressure and diabetes, so are you. Whether or not you live a healthier lifestyle is up to you, but to just accept this as healthy is kind of unacceptable.
I never once said healthy. I just said I'm not fat and I'm not skinny.
The fat acceptance movement has led to deaths and horrible health insurance premiums for all of us.
Yeah, that's why I don't have health insurance, because I can't afford it.
Oh my.
Right? This is the same argument that people are using in relation to Ariana. And I'm saying we need better argumentation if we truly care about people, and we need to have better conversations about how to help people. But I just think at the end of the day, it's the same argumentation, right? Like, you can't say this is healthy. You can't say this. And I'm saying I don't want this conversation to be the way we're having this conversation. I'm obese. You're fat. And by the way, notice that he said that's why our health insurance premiums are up. This is why conservatives think you're choosing to be sick, or that because you're fat, smoke, are anorexic, XYZ, you don't deserve health care. And they don't want to pay for your health care because they think you brought it upon yourself. Even though conservatives notoriously smoke, they're notoriously unhealthy, they're red meat diets, a lot of them are carnivores. They obviously have very unhealthy diets, generally speaking, conservatives. And yet, they will blame all of you. Guys, obesity is not the cause of death. It is other factors, and then obesity can impact, or anorexia can impact, but it's complications from, but it's not exactly always related to. And again, that's why we need professionals to have these conversations. Again, this is a philosophy channel, so I'm not even meaning to have that conversation, but I've listened to enough professionals talk about this. It's not what you think it is. This is a very uneducated perspective. And so I just caution us from having these conversations. This is why I love philosophy, because what is ethical about dragging people on the internet for being fat or skinny or anorexic? Like, what is ethical about dragging people for being sick? What is ethical about dragging people for going through it? I don't understand. I don't think this is helping anybody. Okay. Now, if you want to have private conversations with your family and friends and say, I love you, I see that you're suffering, what can I do to help your suffering? That is a different conversation than, I'm so worried she's going to die. Girl, go worry about your family and friends, because they're also on the verge of death. The same people that are so worried about Ariana, I hate to tell you this, at least one of your friends is thinking about committing suicide right now. And you're probably missing it. Somebody in your life is suffering from an eating disorder, and you're probably missing it because you're so busy. That's what I'm saying. Ariana has her group of people. I'm concerned for the people in my life. So this is how I treat the people in my life. I reach out. I say, hey, how are you doing? If I know someone's going through it, I text on occasion, go, hey, just wanted to check in, remind you that I'm thinking about you, love you, call me if you need anything. You check in with people, because the people in our life, they're going through it. And so that's my top concern. The people in my direct circle and the people here on the stream. Your life is hard enough. You do not need one more thing to worry about, including a TikTok where you see somebody in a similar physical form than you being dragged on the internet for, quote, being sick. Okay? Or, quote, making the choice to be sick, I should say. Okay, I wouldn't want to see that. And I'm assuming you don't want to see that either. But I do say this knowing that I think Jasmine and other people have good intentions, but the road to hell is paved in those good intentions.
Supposed to do. Even if you try to, I don't think you can even get refunds for the tickets, but even if you could, they'd just be bought by somebody else because she's Ariana Grande. She's the biggest artist in the world. Like, not the biggest, but one of the biggest. The seats are going to get filled by someone. What are we supposed to do? There's nothing that we as fans can do, but it still just feels so gross to watch this when she so clearly needs help. And I don't know, it's like maybe there can be some pressure put onto the people around her. Like, at this point, I don't know. I'm like, at this point, how complicit is everyone in this? How complicit are the venues? How complicit is Ticketmaster? How complicit is Live Nation? How complicit is her fucking family? Like, who has the power to stop this, and why aren't they doing it? And
Ariana is the only one who can stop this, and Ariana is going through it. So you support her, you give her all the tools necessary, and then she will have that relationship or not. Ariana is the only person who can stop this. She needs help and she needs tools, but she's getting it. And our only hope is she can survive it. But we don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. All of us, no one can save us but ourselves. But yes, we use tools from our community. Yes, we need the reassurance that we'll be caught when we fall. But it's us. We're the only people who can do anything about it. And when we are ready, we will. If we can, we will. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting for Ariana to eventually get out of this darkness, wherever she is, and to know that there's a whole community rooting for her. But until then, the best you can do is support her. Again, why would I take away her love of singing and touring and performing because she's sick? That might be the only thing keeping her alive. Imagine I was sick from an eating disorder. Imagine I was skin and bones, and then you guys told me that I'm not allowed to stream because I'm getting some sort of social validation from streaming. And my partner says to me, Brittany, until you're healthy, you can't do the thing that gives you purpose. That's basically what I'm hearing. Because I'm assuming Ariana wants to do this. Imagine if I wasn't allowed to stream because I had an eating disorder. I hate to tell you this, half your favorites have eating disorders. That's what I'm saying. Guys, I don't know how you don't realize this, that half the girlies you are watching have eating disorders. I know so many girlies who have eating disorders that people would be like, oh my God, they have an eating disorder? And I'm like, yeah, dude. And they still deserve to be on screen. They still deserve to be making content. That's what I'm saying. You're not thinking this through because you're so distracted about Ariana Grande. You're not thinking about the reality of the implication on everybody else.
Maybe they are behind the scenes. I don't know. Maybe there are people that are trying to help, but it's just like, how did we get to this point where she's on this stage? I don't know. I agree with this person. They said not to add to the discourse, but to Ariana Grande stands who defend her weight, understand it doesn't come from shaming, it comes from concern. Regardless if it's an ED, chronic illness, etc., there is no way that low of a weight is healthy on her heart. I'm really concerned for her. I understand being defensive about claiming she has an ED when none of us know her, but what many of you fail to realize is regardless of what it is going on, being that low of a weight is not sustainable long term. Her heart can and will give out and stop.
Being that size is not good for you. Being that fat is not good for your heart. If you stay fat, your heart will stop working. That's exactly what you all sound like. And I'm saying it's none of our business how people are struggling. The only business it is to tell them they're loved. It is unconditional and we're here for you. That's it. That's what I mean when I say none of your business. When I say it's none of your business, I mean it's not your place to judge because honestly, you don't know what's going on. And even if you do, the argument you're making is that she's suffering. Okay, so she's suffering. What do you want her to do about it? She's trying. Jesus Christ. Y'all are so mean.
Up one day if this continues.
Not Jasmine in general, but just like the statement of like, I care. I know the road to hell is paved in good intentions.
And it really breaks my heart for her and it makes me so scared as someone who does love her. I've had a cousin die from heart failure from being underweight, so I know how serious this actually is, unlike some of you. I hope she gets the help she needs very soon because it's breaking my heart watching her like this. Yeah, I mean.
So, okay, it's this idea that somebody in my life died from an ED, so I know it better than you. Guys, I think we all have friends with EDs, yeah? I've had friends with EDs my whole life. I have dealt with people with eating disorders my whole life. Is this new to you? I do not believe you do not have a friend who has an eating disorder. I don't believe you. You don't have any family, friends, anybody in your life with an eating disorder, or do you just not talk to the people in your community? Because I can name like 7. You know what I mean? You don't have anybody. I have drug addicts, pedophiles, fucking cheaters. I have eating disorders. I have a slew of people struggling in my life. I got a lot of people in my life. And that's what I'm saying. When you grow up and you're the adult in the room and you realize what everyone is suffering, alcoholics, gamblers, people are so deeply suffering. And I could not explain to you the amount of suffering every single person is going through. And so I say to you, the universal message should be, we unconditionally love you. You need to do right by the communities you've hurt, including yourself. I want you to get better. There is a road to redemption. You are not unlovable. I'm not giving up on you. The only person who can give up on you is you. And I really hope you don't do that. But I will never give up on you. I just feel like there is so much misunderstanding about suffering. Suffering. We must learn to suffer wisely, you know? Chet says, I have an ED and a feeding tube, not body image related, but still an eating disorder. This is a very personal topic for me, and I completely agree, Brittany. Thanks. I've been doing dishes, LOL. I appreciate it. And look, maybe my message won't make sense or resonate with all people. There are, on the other side, a lot of people, like this lady I showed you who said, like, you know, I needed to be bullied basically for being fat so I could get skinny, or people feel that way. I do think that's a part of some people's journeys. And at the same time, I wouldn't recommend it as a overall good decision to make as a community. We saw with Vlad yesterday. Vlad's been going through it. He's on a personal journey of growth. But you can see his whole idea of survival is about not being a victim. But the truth is that he was a victim. And him shaming other people because they're not in that place he isn't going to help people. Like, people recover at their own pace. People fight their trauma at their own pace. Like, yes, it'd be great if we could all work on it ASAP. And also, it's a struggle because we're all so, as the village changes and grows, the humans change and grow, but we're struggling, guys, against our obligation as a community member and our obligation to self. And then on top of that, there's no inherent meaning. There is no grand purpose to your life. You're a making meaning machine. So you must make meaning. And so a lot of us find meaning in maybe not the most healthiest places, but that's why we have to constantly be working at it and deconstructing and being healthy and going to therapy and doing all the stuff and doing philosophical work, right? So again, my hope for you, the hope for the work that I do is to encourage us all towards a future in which we can truly become healthier, philosophical people, well understanding that it won't happen overnight and it's not going to happen with the mob yelling at you. I'll share some tidbit. This might be triggering for some people. So just, okay, I am autistic. One of the results of my PDA is I have, and I know the differences between my thoughts that are like intrusive, my thoughts that are floating and fleeting, and my thoughts that are me, Brittany, the consciousness. And I have the kind of PDA that is about agency. So when you because that's what it is, a pervasive drive for autonomy, right? PDA. When you tell me, when I hear Chelsea Fagan or I hear people say that Ariana shouldn't be skinny and that she shouldn't starve herself, the first thought that pops into my autistic brain is, I'm going to starve myself. I'm not going to starve myself. But it is the thought that shows up in my head because what my brain hears is they're trying to control us. Agency, choose to starve yourself. It's a feeling of control. My brain, all of my life, I self-harmed to feel in control. I hurt my own body because it felt like finally something I was in control of. We do not know how much of Ariana's life has not felt like her own. From her making those videos for Nickelodeon to being a child star, so much of this woman's life was not her own. And this might be the only way she feels in control of her life. And I know as somebody who self-harmed to feel in control, it took a lot of philosophical work, so much philosophical work. The world is not helping us do it. So much therapy to realize, okay, Brittany, we can find ways to be in control of our life by letting go of the attachment of outcome. I am in control now by letting go of the need for control. This is an ongoing introspective journey that I am on. I'm 37 years old. And I started this journey at like 28 to 30 is when it really hit. It takes a very long time to recognize. Same thing when you see horrible things happening in the universe. My therapist, I was like, I can't control the world. The world's a horrible place. People are dying. I don't know what to do. And she just said, stop. Who said you were supposed to be able to control all of this? And I was like, I kind of feel like the whole world kept telling my generation, do something, do something. And here we are trying to do something and nothing's happening. Same thing with everything else happening in the world. Because of the way the world is, guys, sometimes when I watch the news, my brain goes, hey, at least you could always kill yourself. Hey, you can't do anything much, but at least you could hurt yourself. And I go, yeah, at least I could hurt myself. And I go, ooh. Because that is my brain's way of seeking a type of control that doesn't make me feel like I'm drowning from the suffering of the world. So this is the tool that I utilized. I practiced philosophy. I did a lot of meditating. I consistently do it now. We're not in control of the world. We're only in control of ourselves. You have to let people make their own decisions. You have to accept people will die. You have to accept the world will be cruel. And then you have to do something about it. There is no grand purpose to your life until you make meaning. And when you make meaning, it must be a meaning you're not attached to. So if you say the grand purpose of my life is X, but as you grow, you want it to be Y, change it to Y. Allow yourself to change. Allow yourself to grow and allow yourself to let go of the things you cannot control. You cannot control whether Ariana Grande lives or dies. But you can control how you react to it. You can control the message you send out to your audience, and you can control the hand you give out to others, the hand you extend to others in your direct community, and especially the hand you reach out to yourself. Because remember not to lose yourself while you're trying to save other people, okay? You also need to give it to yourself. You also need to look in the mirror and love yourself. You also need to remind yourself that it's okay to have thoughts that say, man, I wish I was XYZ. I wish I looked different. I wish I did all these things. And then to remind yourself that you're loved the way you are. and the body that you exist in is just as valid as any other body, and that you do not owe the world prettiness or skinniness or anything. You don't owe the world anything. You owe the world what you decide to give it, and I hope you give it love, compassion, and acceptance. I hope for all of us, and I'm not making a prescription, girlies, you make your own decisions, but I would like to be angry for the world and not at the world. I would like to feed my community and not become something more reckless towards it. So again, there is no grand meaning. You make the meaning. And that is so powerful. Talk about the ultimate form of control. I get to decide what is meaningful to me. Oh, so much for self-harm. Like, what good was that? When self-harm was leading me away from my meaning, once I took control of my sense of purpose, then I could really conceptualize feeling free. Just remember, and this is the big caveat, not to fall for the capitalistic trick of grand meaning, meaning your purpose is like selling MLMs and becoming rich and famous. The cell of patriarchy that your meaning is being a strong man who dictates the lives of others. White supremacy, that you were one of the lucky ones who were born into the right body with the right skin color, with the right level of health. Because remember, ableism is heavily tied to white supremacy. So Ariana's need to even be skinny could be tied to a lot of patriarchy and white supremacy, but she's ultimately in one of the worst industries for that victimization and propaganda. And what's worse is that you love it. We love it. We love white skinny women. We make them famous all the time. So it isn't just Ariana, it's us. And we're not going to stop white skinny women from being the example of what is perfect and what is the goal by simply not going to their concerts. We need to also uplift the voices of healthier people, browner people, bigger people, disabled people, people who are different. And the thing is like, different from what? Even saying different is a very white supremacist talking point, huh, girlies? Different from what? What do you mean I'm different? Different from what? The standard? What is the standard? Okay? So look, even I will grow with my language, you'll grow with yours. But the best form of control you can take is letting go of the need to control everything and making sure that you are in control of the one thing you actually have a say in, which is your life, your choices, your relationship with existence. Okay? Questions, thoughts, comments? Chet says people want to feel like they're doing something, so they concern themselves into oblivion. Absolutely. Absolutely. Controlling other bodies is doing the eating disordered behavior for them. Ooh, so true. So true. Chet says it took me 2 years to recover from my eating disorder that started from a lack of money and turned into a phobia of getting sick from food. I didn't have a support system in place that could help me. Wow. That's honestly, thank you for sharing. Another very important perspective on eating disorders, because I know a lot of people, when talking about Ariana, kept relating it specifically to like being skinny and being giving into patriarchy. But we forget that often a lot of our suffering also comes from our circumstances. Somebody in the family dies and we can't eat. We don't have the money to eat. We go through a sexual assault or something like that. I think there was one time in my life I had been assaulted. I lost a significant amount of weight, and I was going through a lot of changes. One, I didn't have the money to feed myself. And two, I barely had the money to get out of bed and work. And even though it looked like everything was fine on the outside, I think people knew. They would ask me like, hey, are you okay, dude? But the thing is like, even though people were concerned about me, the truth was like, I couldn't talk about it for like 8 years. You know, and that's the other part of it. You can't force people to talk about their stuff. And over the years, people would say, Brittany, just tell me, have you gone through this? Are you going through it? And I'd be like, bro, leave me alone, bro. So listen, the concern you have for people, the way you express it matters. You can't push people into a corner and be like, tell me, were you raped? Like, that's not going to help people. And I know people don't mean to do it because I know they have good intentions, but that's what you sound like. It's like you're trying to push Ariana into a corner and say like, do you have an eating disorder? It's like, bro, that's not helpful. Let people come to you at their own pace. Just remind them that you're available and open and here for them. Okay? Just remind people that you're available. And by the way, I didn't lose weight because I had it. Well, maybe you could call it an eating disorder. I lost weight because I didn't have the money and it was really hard to eat after something so traumatic. So I don't know what you want to call that, but I would call that depression. I was depressed. And I don't know if it's like scientifically or legally or medically called an eating disorder. But again, even the way you guys talk about eating disorders makes me think I never had one because the way people talk about it. Same thing with depression. When people talk about depression, it's like, oh, I've never had that. But it doesn't always look the same way. So I don't know what any of these things are really labeled as, but we're all going through something. I don't know what you want to call it, but all of us are suffering. So it's up to that person to find the right words that matches their experience, to express their trauma, to express their healing, and hopefully we all end up in a better place. You know? Hopefully we all get to a better place where we're healthier and joyful. And when I say healthy, girlies, pause. When I say healthy, I do not mean your body. When I say healthy, I am talking about your mental health, girlies. I'm talking about centering yourself in groundedness. When I say healthy, I mean saying you're healthy while you have cancer. I'm saying I'm healthy while I have an eating disorder. I'm saying healthy while XYZ. Because healthy to me is about understanding exactly what you're suffering from and being able to live in the most present and then do something about it. Because again, healthy isn't just when you've recovered. Healthy is also acknowledging and getting to a better place. Okay? Okay? I'm a very healthy person and I'm disabled. And those two things can exist at the same time.